By now, we're all aware of nutritional deficits are harmful, but not all affect the same way. And when it comes to vitamins, the most harmful to be at a deficit is vitamin D. And that's because it's involved in many different processes that other vitamins are not. Vitamin D, by definition, it's a hormone and affects gene expression of more than 1,000 genes. This is an important function and obviously implies that vitamin D controls physiological processes that those genes would perform. Now, the majority of us were taught that sun exposure meant production of vitamin D in the body, and that is true to some degree, given that it's necessary to first have resources available for the body to be able to synthesize it, and then it gets activated with sun exposure. Now, vitamins can be hydrosoluble, meaning soluble in water, or liposoluble, or soluble in fat. This means that liposoluble are easily spread through fat throughout the body. Therefore, if there is high levels of body fat, the amount of vitamin D circulating in the blood is going to be a lot less. This is important to know because in order to determine the amount of vitamin D that's needed, it's necessary to be conscious of our body weight. Other than regulating several genes, it's also going to keep healthy telomeres. Telomeres are regions of specialized proteins located at the ends of chromosomes in order to protect the DNA. This means that as telomeres shorten, the DNA gets damaged, resulting in the production of damaged cells. Around 40% of the US population is vitamin D deficient. This means that genetically you already are 5 years older just for being vitamin D deficient. But the people with proper values of vitamin D lives longer and a healthier life. Vitamin D has thousands of functions, making it for me impractical going over all of these functions, but there are a few worth reviewing and consider when beginning to understand the importance of vitamin D. Vitamin D is important to metabolize calcium for bones, synthesis of hormones, mainly male hormones like testosterone, immune system, and self-esteem. The main consideration for skeletal system are the following. Although it is known that low values of vitamin D in blood can accelerate the loss of bone density, especially in women, the supplementation of vitamin D is just not enough. To fix bone density, it's necessary to use vitamin K and combine them because they work together. But supplements may sometimes it won't cut it. It won't be enough because the body needs a stimulation to produce bone mass. And this is where strength training comes in. And this is something very important to remember. Next is the synthesis of hormones and the metabolism of vitamin D. As I just mentioned a moment ago, vitamin D is closely related to steroid hormone production and also with male infertility. Research has showed us that sperm cells have receptors for vitamin D. Therefore, if levels of vitamin D increase, so does testosterone and sperm count. Actually, it's very common that if levels of vitamin D in blood increase, testosterone levels will increase without drinking anything else that's specifically meant for testosterone. Another important factor is proper liver function. The liver helps to activate vitamin D, or the precursor of vitamin D, to its active form, therefore needing enough of its precursor, sun exposure, and a healthy liver in order to maintain proper levels in blood. Actually, equatorial countries experience low levels of this vitamin, therefore showing that it's not enough to simply expose ourselves to sunlight. Next, we have the immune system. There are lots of studies demonstrating the role in the immune system becoming more understood that a deficit can indicate autoimmune problems. Today, we have lots of evidence showing the efficacy at lowering viral replication, meaning that if I have a virus, it will slow down the spread of the virus and lower inflammation. So how much vitamin D is the proper amount? On one hand, it's very common to hear that consuming lots of vitamin D can cause or increase toxicity levels, and therefore advising to only consume it through food or sticking to 1,000 daily units. But on the other hand, a study that was released by the American Journal of Nutrition in 2010 demonstrates that a dose that can create symptoms of toxicity starts around 40,000 units per day. We're talking about 40 times the recommended daily value, but that's not exactly the end of it. In order to see the effects of toxicity, it must be consumed on a daily basis for 12 weeks. Studies also demonstrate that consuming 10,000 units per day, which is the same as 250 micrograms, showed toxicity in only one person after 7 years of continuous use. So what's the ideal amount that I should be consuming? Well, the right amount is kind of tricky because it depends on each individual. Every person will need a different amount to reach those optimal levels that are independent to that person. The optimal level of vitamin D is around 60 nanograms per milliliter, for which consuming somewhere around 5,000 units to 10,000 units per day would be ideal, although it would depend how your organism processes the vitamin. This also means that aside from consuming supplements, exposing myself to sun, and ensuring a healthy liver are necessary for it to work. A good way to determine the amount to be consumed is by doing lab work, and from there it would be clear to see the amount that is needed. But if you don't have access to a lab test, then in order to be safe, consuming 5,000 units daily would help you keep a fair amount of vitamin D while also avoiding toxicity. Whenever there is information about a substance and its benefits, such as vitamin D, those benefits can only be acquired whenever there is optimal levels of that substance. All the benefits of vitamin D I've gone over can only be achieved whenever you reach those optimal levels, which normal levels are not enough to reap its benefits. Optimizing nutritional values in your organism, it's simply common sense, and this applies to vitamin D as well as other nutrients. A good diet, by definition, is that which allows you to achieve good nutritional values in blood, and it should always be measured to have the guarantee that I am within proper values of this substance, and from there determine what else is needed to be done. Keeping good nutritional values means preventing chronic diseases and have a healthier life. So that's it for this video. If you guys found this video helpful, please hit the like button and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see next. So don't forget to subscribe. See you on the next one.